$2 million. That's how much the apartment, made infamous by Simon Gattani, was expected to fetch last night at auction. Now, just over a year ago, he was convicted of murder for throwing his fiancée from the balcony to her death. Now, it's not actually the first house with a dark history that struggled to sell. Have a look. 10 Castle Court, Berkeley. It may look picture perfect, but 20 years ago it was rocked by tragedy.
This morning, police were back at the murder scene looking for clues, while in Sydney, autopsies were being carried out on the victims' bodies.
Just last year, it was auctioned for the first time and sold nearly $120,000 less than market value. If walls could talk, these would tell an horrific story. In 2001, Seth Gonzalez murdered his parents and sister. A chilling fact real estate agents didn't tell buyers. They were fined nearly $21,000, and a year later the house did sell, but $80,000 less than the first time around.
It's surprising, isn't it? So here to explain what happens to these horror homes is property expert Ted Hanson. Ted, thanks for joining us this morning. It's a big city. There's a big country. A lot of people lived here. A lot of people have died here. But from violent crimes to suicides, do real estate agents have to disclose this to buyers?
Short answer is yes. Under Australian consumer law, agents have got to play fair. In New South Wales particularly, there's a piece of legislation called material fact, which means that agents are required to tell buyers anything that particularly would affect their decision to purchase.
I would have thought morally you would have to tell buyers as well.
Well, morally, yes, some agents don't. Legally, now they do. This started in 2004 with the Seth Gonzalez item, which was shown earlier on. And the agent in that particular instance didn't tell the marketplace. The eventual buyer said, after they found out, I'd like to withdraw from the sale. There were fines and the legislation was changed. Right.
Just on that, when people are told, what's the usual reaction? Is there a usual reaction? I mean, we were talking about it in the ad break. Some people think it's a great deal when this happens and they get a bargain. Some just don't want a part of it.
Some people freak out, others simply take it in their stride.
I'd freak out.
I can understand that, I really can. There are others that'll simply buy it, move in, renovate, sleep peacefully at night. It's interesting that that one didn't sell last night. There was only one registered bidder, as I understand. Yeah,
that was a particularly passionate reaction from everybody out in Sydney and Australia when that happened. So I can imagine why that didn't sell. Sure. But, you know, let's be cold about this and be a bit removed, but for bargain hunters out there, I mean, that aren't bothered by, not this one, but any house history which has a dark past, brass tacks, how much money can they save? Well,
that item about the Berkeley house is a good example. That went to the market late last year, and comparable properties around the area were selling around $500,000. That was a particularly gruesome murder in that house. It ended up selling for $382,500, so that's nearly $120,000 less than what you would have bought it in normal market circumstance.
So if you're looking to buy a property, how do you find out about the history? I mean, is it as easy as just Googling these days?
Usually events like we're talking about have had a fairly high media coverage. So there's a good chance simply Googling will get what you want. Also, I'd simply ask the agent why the property is being marketed, why is it on the market. And the other one that I particularly like is go and ask the neighbours. My experience is that neighbours are perfectly willing to tell you about a street's history.
That's an interesting conversation.
That's true, yeah.
Is anyone... You're just checking.
But people do it, though, don't they? They do buy these properties eventually.
Absolutely.
So do you think this Gattani property will eventually be sold?
Yes, it wouldn't surprise me if they're in negotiations at the moment with the interested party from last night.
Wow.
So I'd expect that the market was probably sitting back, waiting what the reaction was, and then take it from there.
Watch this space.
All right, thank you so much,
Thanks.
Ted. Last year, a double murder house in Sydney surprised buyers when it sold $200,000 above.
So there you go, it does happen.
So it does happen. Real estate agents put it down to good renovation triumphing over its tragic history. It's a conundrum, isn't it? I don't know what I would do.
It's a really personal thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd probably best try and find somewhere else.